Hey, welcome back. So today, I want to talk about something that genuinely changed the way I think about cooking, baking, and honestly, just energy in general. And I know that title sounds like a bold claim, but stick with me, because by the end of this video you are going to be looking at your kitchen oven very differently. Like, maybe a little judgmentally, we're talking about the Adobe Beehive oven. The Horno. This dome-shaped, mud-built, ancient piece of cooking technology that has been feeding communities for centuries and that most of the modern world has almost completely forgotten about. And that's a shame, because this thing can bake 30 loaves of bread on a single fire. No gas, no electricity, no thermostat, just clay, wood, and understanding how heat actually works. Let me start with the basics so we're all on the same page. An Adobe Beehive oven, sometimes called a Horno, is a freestanding outdoor oven built primarily from adobe bricks or a mixture of clay, sand, and straw. The shape is roughly dough-like, rounded at the top, wider at the base, with a small opening at the front that serves as both the door and the ventilation point. That shape is not aesthetic, it's not just a southwestern design choice. That dome is doing serious physics for you. The curved interior reflects heat back toward the center with remarkable efficiency, creating a cooking environment that holds temperature in a way that a rectangular metal box simply cannot match. Now here's the thing that trips most people up when they first encounter this. You don't bake in the fire. Let me say that again. You are not baking while the fire is burning inside the oven. That's not how this works at all, and understanding this distinction is what makes the whole system click. You build a fire inside the oven. You let it burn for a few hours. The fire heats the thermal mass of the walls, all that clay, all that adobe, and those walls absorb an incredible amount of heat energy. Then, when the fire has burned down to coals, you rake those coals out, you clean the floor of the oven, you check the temperature using methods I'll get to in a second, and then you load your bread in, you seal the opening, and the stored heat in those walls radiates back into the interior for hours. Consistently, steadily. Like a giant heat battery that slowly releases everything it absorbed. Your kitchen oven? It generates heat continuously and cycles on and off to maintain temperature. It's reactive. It's constantly working. The Beehive oven does all its work up front and then just delivers, patiently, beautifully. And the thermal mass of a properly built Horno can hold baking temperatures for 4 to 6 hours on a single fire, sometimes longer. That's how you bake 30 loaves. You're not burning more wood, you're using the same fire's stored energy across multiple batches. The efficiency difference is staggering when you actually sit down and think about it. A conventional electric oven runs somewhere around 2,000 to 2,500 watts. It's cycling heat for the entire duration of your bake. The Beehive oven burns maybe a bundle or two of wood, charges up, and coasts through batch after batch after batch. Communities in New Mexico have been doing this for Pueblo ceremonies and feast days for generations. You'll see a family fire up one Horno on a Saturday morning and bake bread for an entire extended family gathering. That's not a survival technique, that's just smart. Now let's talk about building one, because this is not as intimidating as it might sound. The basic construction involves a few key decisions and a few days of your time spread across a couple of weeks to allow for proper drying. You want to start with a solid foundation. A lot of traditional Hornos sit on a raised adobe platform or a stone base, maybe 2 to 3 feet off the ground. This is partly for ergonomic reasons. You don't want to be loading bread at ground level all day. And partly to protect the structure from ground moisture. Moisture is the enemy of adobe. Keep that in mind throughout this entire process. The floor of the oven is particularly important. Many builders use fire brick for the cooking surface because it holds heat extremely well and provides a flat cleanable surface for your bread. You can use flat stones too. What you want to avoid is using regular concrete blocks or standard bricks that haven't been rated for high heat, because they can crack and spall, and that's a safety issue and a structural issue. For the dome itself, the traditional method involves forming a sand mound in the shape of the interior of the oven, covering it with wet newspaper, and then applying your adobe mix over the top of it. The sand mound acts as a form, Once the adobe dries and cures, you dig the sand out through the opening and you have your dome. Simple, elegant, effective. The adobe mix is generally a ratio of clay-heavy soil, sand, and straw or other fiber. The straw acts as a binder, reinforcing the structure, much like rebar reinforces concrete. Getting this ratio right matters. Too much clay and it shrinks and cracks as it dries. Too much sand and it crumbles and lacks structural integrity. A common starting point is roughly 1 part clay soil to 2 parts sand, with a generous handful of straw mixed through. But honestly, traditional builders will tell you that you learn your local soil. Every region is different. You test, you adjust, you learn. The walls of a well-built Horno are typically 4 to 6 inches thick at minimum. Some people go thicker. Thicker walls mean more thermal mass, which means longer heat retention, which means more baking capacity. There's a real argument for going 8 inches on a production-scale oven if you're planning to bake for a large group regularly. The opening, the mouth of the oven, is typically rounded and positioned so that it's roughly 1/2 to 2/3 the height of the dome's interior. This proportion matters for airflow during the firing phase. You want good draft to keep your fire burning cleanly. During the baking phase, you're plugging this opening with a wooden door, or traditionally a flat stone, or even a piece of sheet metal cut to fit. The seal doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be fairly snug to retain heat. Now about temperature. This is where the craft really lives. You don't have a thermometer on a Horno. Traditional bakers use a few different methods. One of the most common is the flour test. You toss a small handful of flour onto the cleaned oven floor. If it blackens and chars immediately, the oven is too hot, probably above 650 degrees Fahrenheit, and you need to wait. If it turns golden brown in about 30 seconds to a minute, you're in the bread zone, roughly 450 to 500 degrees. If it barely colors after a minute or two, the oven has cooled too much for bread, but might be perfect for long, slow dishes like beans or roasted vegetables. Another method is the paper test. A piece of newspaper placed on the floor will burn, brown, or barely change color depending on temperature, giving you a rough read. And then there are people who have been doing this for decades, who just put their hand near the opening for a few seconds and know. That knowledge is real. It's embodied. You build it through repetition and attention. The first bake in a new oven is always humbling, by the way. You're going to misjudge the temperature. You might overbake the first batch, or underbake it. That's fine. That's part of the process. The oven is teaching you its personality, how fast it fires, how long it holds, where the hot spots are. Every oven is a little different, because every oven is handmade. Let's talk about what you can actually cook in one of these, because bread is just the beginning. Bread is the flagship. Absolutely. The high radiant heat produces a crust on a sourdough or a traditional wheat loaf that you genuinely cannot replicate in a conventional oven without serious effort and steam injection. That crispy, slightly smoky, deeply caramelized crust with a soft open crumb inside, that's the Horno working at its best. But after the bread comes out and the temperature drops into the 350 to 400 degree range, that's when you slide in your roasting dishes. Whole chickens, shoulders of lamb or pork, potatoes, root vegetables, casseroles. The radiant heat cooks these dishes with an evenness and a depth that's hard to describe if you haven't experienced it. There's something about heat coming from all sides simultaneously, from above, from the walls, from the floor, that just cooks differently. And then, as the temperature continues to drop below 300 degrees, you're in slow cook territory. Beans that have been soaking overnight, stews, stockses. You can put a covered pot of beans in a cooling Horno and come back in the morning to perfectly cooked, creamy fall-apart beans that didn't require any additional fuel. The oven did all the work while you slept. That cascading use of a single fire is something that just doesn't have an equivalent in modern kitchen appliances. I want to take a second to acknowledge the cultural lineage here, because it matters. The Horno as it exists in the American Southwest is deeply associated with Pueblo peoples and with Spanish colonial traditions that blended with indigenous practices. The Taos Pueblo, the Acoma Pueblo, the communities of New Mexico and Arizona, these people have maintained this technology not just as a curiosity, but as a living practice. When you build a Horno, you are inheriting a tradition. Approach that with respect and curiosity. Learn from people who carry this knowledge in their families. Read about the history. Don't just treat it as a trendy homesteading project disconnected from the people who kept it alive. That said, this technology deserves to spread. In a world where we're increasingly aware of energy costs and energy waste, the Horno offers a genuinely compelling alternative for anyone with outdoor space. A backyard Horno can serve a household's baking needs on a fraction of the energy investment of conventional baking, especially if you're sourcing wood responsibly from your own land or from local sustainable sources. There are also modern hybrid approaches worth mentioning. Some builders are incorporating a small amount of lime into their Adobe mix for increased durability and weather resistance. Some are finishing the exterior with a lime plaster that sheds rain and extends the life of the structure significantly. In wet climates, covering the oven with a simple roof structure, just a roof, nothing enclosed, just rain protection, can dramatically extend the lifespan of an Adobe Horno. Unprotected Adobe in a wet, rainy climate will erode over time. That's just physics. Plan accordingly. A properly built and maintained Horno in a reasonably dry climate can last decades. There are Hornos still in use in New Mexico that are over 100 years old, periodically replastered and maintained by the same families that built them. The material is cheap, the maintenance is simple, the longevity is remarkable. For anyone who wants to go deeper on this, I really recommend seeking out resources from the New Mexico Historic Preservation Office, which has published detailed guides on traditional Horno construction. There are also some incredible books on Adobe building generally. The Rammed Earth House by David Easton, or books specifically on cob and Adobe construction by Anto Evans and Linda Smiley, that will give you a solid foundation in working with earthen materials before you start your oven project. And if you can, find a workshop. There are organizations and communities, particularly in the Southwest, that run traditional earthen building workshops where you'll actually build a structure with your hands under the guidance of experienced teachers. Nothing substitutes for learning this with your hands in real material. So where does this leave us? It leaves us with this. There is a technology that has existed for centuries that requires no electricity, no gas, no manufactured components, that can feed 30 people on a single fire. That produces food with a quality and a depth that modern appliances struggle to match, and that can be built by a motivated person with local materials for very little money. And most of us have never even considered building one. Your kitchen oven is fine, it's convenient, I get it. But once you've pulled your first batch of sourdough out of a properly fired Horno, and felt that crust, and tasted that crumb, and understood what heat working with time and mass and physics can actually do, you're going to think about that stainless steel box in your kitchen a little differently. Build the oven, fire it up, feed your people. That's what it's for. If you found this useful, drop a comment below telling me what you'd want to bake first in a Horno. I'm genuinely curious. A lot of people say bread, obviously, but I've heard some really interesting answers over the years. And subscribe if you want more content like this, because we've got a lot more to cover on traditional food systems, sustainable building, and getting serious about understanding where your food actually comes from. See you in the next one.